fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Welcome back, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. Today, we're going to be talking Outpost again. Number one, I want to say thank you to all those who so far have watched the State of the Game show that we put out yesterday here on the channel. If you haven't checked it out, would encourage you to do so because I'll be honest, it's good for us to come together as a group and talk about some of the bigger issues in the game, like this video and that one. Today, we're going to talk about the Outpost Refinery. We've done a video where we talked about how to attack the hostiles and how to attack the outpost itself. If you haven't seen that video, it'll be linked at the end of this one, but that was a very special video because of how those hostiles are designed. Well, in this video, I really want to focus on the refinery. Number one, is a good refinery, long-term, for players, whether you're level G5, whether you're level G6, G7, is it good? And talk about what you can get in it and if you're doing your participations. Now, obviously, Outpost is a very contentious topic. I'm not saying here to argue that it's a good mechanic. Y'all can discuss the mechanic down in the comment section down below. I know a lot of people have very valid and very loud opinions about it, but after the recent updates making a lot of the issues that were prevalent fixed, well, it opens up the opportunity for people to do it. So let's talk about what you get if you are going to be one of those lucky few who do the Outpost. There are 180 of them in the system, but this is what it's going to actually look like once you have it unlocked. Obviously, different refinery sections will be locked based on your ops level. So one thing we'll start with is probably the, well, let's just put it on the screen. Bam, talk about this one. Talk about the exchanges themselves. So it's actually the two little buttons you see behind me. That's what you get if you are going to refine every day. If you're doing the Outpost, you get a currency, and that allows you to then turn that in. Now, depending on which ones you're doing and the cost and where you're at, obviously you see there, will determine how much you're getting. So if you're an Ops 60 plus player and you're pulling the G5 chest, you can see what you're getting up there between the power shift, titanium to lithium, and the materials. If you're a G6 player, based on your ops, you can see what you're pulling there with a chance to pull higher numbers and lower numbers. There's an RNG there. And thankfully, it's actually kind of nice with it being like a 50% chance to get the higher Sigma trit versus the lower one versus it being like 90-10. But numbers be numbers. But this is what you get if you do these couple box pulls right behind me. Now, this is reliant on you actually going and doing the Outpost mechanic. As you can see here, we need to have solo Outpost credits. You have to work through the mechanic to do this. Now, don't be confused. This is not the same material token or as the material fragments, which is actually what you get from the building itself as it is working. Remember, it generates fragments. To use fragments, you actually do that in the refinery materials tab, grade 5 materials, which is what I currently have set up. You can say, okay, well, do I want to go grab some crystal? Sure, I'll just pull what I can, grab that, and then back out. And then you should see the ability to pull more. Again, this will be based on the level of your building. But we're focusing on the refinery for the Outpost itself, which is slightly different and actually doesn't interact with the building. So we've got a trade down mechanic. We've also got the rare core to common core trade down. For those that don't remember, once you get into level 51 and above, you're going to start needing rare cores as well as common cores. So you have a trade down there to try to help that happen with rares to uncommons and uncommons to commons. This is for the buffs in the actual runs themselves. Like if you're doing the Outpost, those are your buffs. Now, what I did is last night, overnight, left mine to run. So ignore the Sulabond. You see, I went and did a 56 as a level 63. That is a little bit of a punch down. Why did I punch down? I do really try to stress the idea is for you to punch at your level or above. I did it for the sake of today's video to talk about the next set of currencies that are arguably, I mean, they're quite important in my opinion, arguably the most important, and that's these, the retaliation plunder. Now you might go, Rev, why are you talking about the plunder before you talk about the other currency? Because honestly, the plunder is probably the main thing that is going to give this refinery value. It's what we'll spend the most time talking on today. All the different things. So not only do you have the hierarch, which you can work on, I want y'all also to pay attention to these cooldowns, but you've got primes, a lot of primes that are available. We'll talk about those primes here in a second. You've got vengeance blueprints, depending on where you're at. You've got the plunder cost itself. You got the prime, 4 primes, the master, and then for me, the premium mirror dust being the biggest one. Now there's a 20-hour cooldown on some of these. So when it comes to how often you can do them, it's going to really depends on how often you run Outposts. But remember, you can only get this plunder currency from the wave 2 attackers. So that's the final 30 of each set. Remember, there's 72 hostiles in an Outpost. The final 30 drop plunder. right? So the first 42, I'm not saying they're worthless. They also have their own set of stuff right there. You're going to have the G5-G6 ship skins. You're going to have Galactic Acclaim, the Nog Officer, the War Room, the DTI, etc. buildings down the run. But this takes the medals, right? So not the same thing as the Plunder. It also has 20-hour cooldown. So let's jump into what I currently have in mind. So let's see Premium Mirror Dust. I know I've got a 20-hour timer. You see I've got over 1,100 Plunder so far. Again, that's from leaving it overnight. And bam, there's my 20-hour. I do it again tomorrow, get 100 more. That'll be 100 Premium Mirror Dust a day. Or if you can afford the double, do that. But again, this goes back to what I said, like if you're punching down, you're going to get different amounts. Keep in mind that the goal should also be to just reach that level if you're a G6 player, for example, because the payouts are significantly higher when it comes to the hostiles. But we covered that in its own video. So we've got things like the Plunder here. You've also got the officer itself, the Hierarch, which is 100 for a single, 1,000 for a double, and 2,700. So a very high tax to get more here. So a lot of players are going to be doing the one at a time here. Coming on down into the primes. Again, I said that we're going to take a look at what these primes have in terms of like what all of they are. So a lot of these have been available before, but at the same time, does everybody have all these maxed out? There's actually a couple dozen primes here that you're getting access to via the Outpost Refinery if you're doing, again, that Plunder mechanic. It has to be those final 30 hostiles of an outpost. But what are some of the things you can get? Well, as you can see here, I've got on the screen Prime Dolomite. Many of you should be familiar with the isolytics for the Prime Dolomite. I've talked about those a lot. The Prime Engineering, the ship parts, all those are must-haves, and that's, 20-something right there in terms of total primes and levels, as well as others. But you also have, right here, Prime Orbit Medallions. If you've not unlocked those, there's going to be prime efficiencies for your G3 through G5 stations. You've got ship efficiencies there. You got the critical floor damage, which is super-duper important to get, as well as others. You've got the prime mirror particles here. Remember, this can give you the central entity whole health prime from the mirror tree, as well as an ISO prime. Both now free to play. Very, 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 very recommended you pick up both of them. Will help your solo wave experience, both the elites and regular, and it will assist you in actually just being better at the game because you'll have more ISO, and that's still one of the most important elements in today's game. So you got Valor, Dolomite, Mirror, and Orbit medallions. And again, this spreadsheet, what we'll do is we'll link this in the comment section of this video. We try to get this all for you. You can see you can get the Valors. That's how you get all those Prime Discovery Warp Range runs. You got Prime Station Delay, which is a very well-known and very often used PvP situation for base rating if you're into that mechanic. It's a little dead at the moment, but if you're into that mechanic. So a lot of these have a lot of good value primes. Now, again, the argument will be made, and it is true, that a lot of these primes have got sourcing in other places, like Alliance tournaments, and we definitely been working on Dolomite for a while. But because there are dozens of primes these apply to, it is still valuable for our G5 and G6 players to work on that. The truth is, though, when it comes to our G7 players, that's where I feel a little bit off, because I don't feel like there's a lot here for G7. Right, you do have the PvP officer. That's something. I know a lot of G7 have not finished their Premium Mirror Dust. Most are close. And then you have the Vengeance BPs, but the Vengeance BPs is very costly for very few BPs. If you remember, the Vengeance actually has a lot of blueprints needed to actually unlock the Vengeance. In fact, I'll show you by scrolling all the way to the end. You need 1,000 Vengeance blueprints to unlock the ship. So the incentive not really there, and that's something that you heard a lot in the State of the Game podcast, as well as from actual VIPs and G7s that are probably in your alliance, that they say the Outpost Refinery just doesn't have a ton for them. They're not wrong. There are some things. Again, more is more. And when it comes to things like the G7 box to get Sigma Trit and things like that, Sigma Parsteel, yeah, that's valuable, right? We can agree that we like those things. Put that back on the screen. But is it amazing? No, it's not. And it's okay to say that. If anything, I think that in terms of content that's come out, this is a refinery that's really good for you G5 players if you're getting into this loop early on. It's for you, everybody else out there. You higher level players, I really feel like there's not much for you, but let me know if it's different for you. For example, do you take pride in the game to the point where you actually do want to chase after the Outpost Master title? It's going to cost you 100,000 plunder. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Hopefully this video is giving you the information you need to have value in the refinery, or if you just simply don't like it at all. In fact, let me know what you think down in the comment section below, because personally, I like titles. Some of you might think those are completely silly, and you know what? We're both right. So, hey, before you leave, like the video, live long and plunder, stay safe for the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek Figure Man video. As always, I thank you for supporting me and my family, and we're out.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.